Thank you all for being here. I am joined with an amazing team this evening to answer questions and provide more information on our back to school return to campus for Mount Vernon High School. I'd like the panelists to unmute themselves and introduce themselves to you before we get started. My name is Dr. Terry Watto. I'm the very proud principal at Mount Vernon High School.
Chris Oliver, Assistant Principal, Athletic Director.
Hi, I'm Heath Theon, one of the assistant principals at the high school.
Cesar Bernal, one of the assistant principals at the high school.
Hi, I'm Julie Sager. I'm an assistant principal and CTE director.
I'm Bill Nutting. I'm the assistant superintendent for the school district.
Hi, I'm Kendra Monroe Smith, and I am the admin intern this year.
Hello, everyone. Armando Ruiz, and I'm Dean of Students at Mount Vernon High School.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christy Rittenhouse, and I am the school nurse.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started and share information for you or with you, and then also answer questions towards the end that are still outstanding from the questions that you sent in earlier this week. Thank you for doing that. Our hope and intention with this is that this will help you as parents make informed decisions for your students and also understand better the direction that this return to campus is headed. So here we go. All right, so you are looking at our first screen. Again, welcome and hello. The first piece that I am going to share, we're going to tag team these pieces tonight. The first part that I'm going to share with you is the discussion of the schedule, as well as the survey that has gone out to our families and can also be found on our website. The anticipated return date for students to campus is April 19th, so 2 weeks roughly after our spring break. So hopefully you have seen this survey. It was linked in our Dog Dish newsletter, and the purpose of this survey is to gather information from families. What are they planning on doing? Are you having your students return to campus? Or are you choosing to have the entirely remote option? So earlier we had asked and solicited information from families around how often do you want to see students on campus? What's the ideal amount of time? That information went into our planning. And then from there, we are now on our next phase. We have our schedule developed, and we're looking to hear from you as to whether or not you need transportation, and again, whether or not your student is planning on hybrid or remote. For those families that are unable to complete the survey, we do need to hear from everyone. So therefore, we will start calling families and reaching out to make sure that we get information so that we hear from all involved. All right, next slide, maybe. Okay, you have probably already seen this schedule. Again, it was sent out with the information, and I just want to walk you through what this looks like and what this means. So in order to ensure that we can maintain social distancing, right now we are still working with the 6-foot distancing parameter. The student body was divided in half alphabetically. So A through LEO will meet on campus 2 days a week for their full classes, periods 1 through 5. That was something that we heard from families that they wanted to see students back as much as possible. The 00 period and the 0 period you see there are opportunities that students have for clubs. They may have them for athletic practices. They may have them for pod support. What that means though is that students need to have that set up ahead of time, because for safety and contact tracing reasons, we need to know where kids are and who they're with. But those opportunities are there. And then you can see the bell schedule runs from 10:30 till 4 o'clock. I realize that this is a change from what we started with the 9 to 12 o'clock timeframe that we currently have. There's a number of reasons for this. Primarily, it goes to the fact that we are sharing resources with the elementary schools and the middle schools. And unfortunately, we do not have transportation that can get us back to our more traditional time. And again, honoring what was shared with us from parents in the community around wanting full days, that's where we are. Having said this, we recognize that there are already plans in place. Students have athletic practices, they have jobs, they have things that may impact their time to be on campus fully. And so we are working with those particular situations. We just need to hear from you around your individual circumstances, and we can meet you more than halfway. Wednesdays are remote days, so students will have advisory for 50 minutes on those Wednesdays. The remainder of the day is theirs for asynchronous work catch up. And then if they are in person, or excuse me, if they're hybrid, if they were on campus at the beginning of the week, they will remote in or Zoom into their classes the latter half of the week, while those students that were remote earlier in the week will be in person on Thursday and Friday. And again, this alphabetic split is due to the fact that we can't do grade levels because there are some classes like English 9, for example, where we wouldn't be able to maximally distance students. And so this gives us a more feasible split. And also I wanted to share, we'll get more into this in a little bit later on, but lunch will be served on campus during that second hour time frame, so that 11:30 to 1 o'clock time frame you see there has to do with the addition of the 30-minute lunches throughout that period. All right, Ms. Sager.
Hi. So this kind of just stems right off of what Dr. Wadawa just shared, but we will have advisory every Wednesday. That's for all students. It will be via Zoom, and it will be from 10:30 until 11:20. Additionally, students can access teachers at office hours, and that again is through Zoom. Those morning times, 8:30 to 10, or from 4 to 5:30. Teachers will have office hours one of those two times, depending on their other responsibilities in the mornings or after school. And those office hours are Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Teachers also encourage students to email them, and they have all kinds of ways to connect with them because they're there for kids. So just make sure that you know that it's fine to reach out to teachers through email at any time, but the office hours are there to connect with them.
All right, so some specific details for both students and parents, so that you're aware when we return, is students should bring their Chromebooks and chargers every day. If you have earpods and headphones, you need to bring those and any kind of school supplies. So it's kind of like normal school. You'll bring the stuff you need in order to be successful in your classes. You will be required to sit in your desks or at your tables and stay there. Because of COVID, you won't have the opportunity to move around quite as much as normal. There won't be quite as much face-to-face collaboration. If a teacher can set that up 6 feet apart, then they will for sure. But for the most part, you'll have to maintain that 6 feet of distance. Windows will be open, so wear your coats and sweatshirts. We're all used to being layered around here, especially in the spring. So you'll need to do that in your classes as well. There will be a student-parent agreement for anybody returning to campus that really just talks about the items on the next slide.
All right.
So students will be asked to do a self-screening. We think it's going to be through Skyward every day before they return to class. Of course, students will be required, and teachers and all staff, to wear the masks. We ask that people focus on hand hygiene and cleanliness, washing their hands every opportunity. There'll be plenty of buckets of hand sanitizer around campus for people to use. And then again, there's that social distancing. Some questions have come up about the CDC guidelines moving to 3 feet. As of now, the Washington State guidelines that we are still under is 6 feet. So that's the next slide talks about that. So that is going to be our mantra. You stay six feet apart as best you can. We know that there are hallways, restrooms, and things where that might break down a little bit, but for the most part, you will try to keep everybody 6 feet apart.
All right, good evening, everybody. So I'm going to talk quickly about the lunch schedule. Due to the limited space because of our old main construction going on, our cafeteria is going to be utilized as an instructional area or classrooms. And so therefore, we will not have the cafeteria for students to eat their lunches in. What we will be doing is a sack lunch. During that second period, we're looking at probably 2 lunches during second period. So they'll split up, and so all students will not be in the same lunch period. But they will be getting that sack lunch and making their way out toward the football field and the bleachers, which would be our designated area for the most part on nice days. And that area, I want to ensure you will be supervised by staff, administration, security, and just to try to ensure that as we keep saying and repeating, everybody's safely distanced and helping keep the area clean as well. We'll have plenty of garbage cans and everything around, and just as if we were in the cafeteria, encourage the students to clean up after themselves and help out and all of that. And so for the days where it's not going to be so nice, we are bringing in tents. We're still picking out those locations so the students can be covered and stay dry. But really, I'm just hoping for 70 degrees and sunny every day from here on out. And so we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one. But that's kind of our area. So one of the questions that came up too was, what about breakfast and things like that? And so what we do know is that a breakfast and a lunch can be put into those sacks, so to help sustain everybody throughout the day. Yeah, so once we get all the information on the tents and where they're set up, we'll make sure we get that information out to you as well.
All right, good evening, everybody. Mr. Bernal here. So I'm just gonna go over student support and also just to kind of touch base again on transportation. For those 0 and 00 hour periods, as you can see, going from 8:30 until 10:25, we won't have any transportation available. So if students need to reach out to their teacher, or if they're doing a club activity, they need to reach out to those staff members or coaches if it's anything dealing with athletics for if they're looking for additional help or to do those activities during that period of time. Reach out to the teachers, and then they have to get a list together so we can properly know the students who are coming on campus. They're doing the COVID attestation, and we're making sure that we're keeping that information in case of tracking purposes, in case there is a positive COVID test out there. So any student who is in a pod at the moment, who was assigned a pod earlier before this time, the last day for those pods will be the 2nd of April, which will be not this Friday, but the following Friday prior to spring break.
Good evening, everyone. So besides having the option of attending in person those 2 days a week, you as a family can decide to remain remote, and you have that option. And so if you are choosing to remain remote, the expectation that on a daily basis, students will need to log into their Zoom classes. And again, that's that 10:30 to 4 p.m. time, engage in lessons, and complete the assigned work. Any students needing assistance should email their teachers and attend office hours. Again, teachers Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday will be available for office hours from 8:30 to 10 o'clock. And so students that are remaining remote will have that option to attend those office hours. Remote students should always, always, always check Google Classroom daily and determine their Zoom times and their daily schedule. And so again, the expectation is you're showing up for Zoom every day as you would with the hybrid model as well.
All right, so I want to go over some of the timeline of events. That way, we as a community are on the same page. So the week of March 22nd, which is this week, the family survey went out, hybrid, remote, and transportation. That survey needs to be done by Friday of this week, the 26th, and we will also be reaching out through our advisory teachers to get as much information as possible. Next week, the week of March 29th, we are actually going to be conducting Welcome Back to Campus tours. And there is a sign-up form that we will be displaying in just a bit. We also will be doing a family survey, connect with families that have not responded during next week as well. So the first full week of April is spring break. So no one has to worry about that other than kind of like relax and getting ready to come back on campus. The week of April 12th is the week that week prior to us being back in person finally. So what we're having is campus wayfinding signage is being put up, communication to students regarding new instructional format, hybrid and remote will be going out, and then transportation information is going out to families. These are some of the reasons why we're doing the surveys, to make sure that transportation has the information needed to be able to set up the routes for all our families.
Hi, everyone. So speaking of next week, and welcome back to campus tours. We will focus next week, so the week of March 29th through April 2nd, we will focus on freshmen. So we will have this available for freshmen to come and tour the campus, also to have conversations or ask questions about anything that they may need. So we have times available at 1, at 2, and then in the evening as well at 5 and at 6. And that will happen throughout the week, next week. So you'll be able to see the times there on the Welcome Back to Campus Reopening Orientation sign-up that you will receive. We will also have that for the week after we return, which is April 12th through the 16th, and that is for sophomore through seniors. And so if you are interested, if your student is interested in coming and checking out the tour, checking out the high school, kind of getting a sense of where classes will be, just get more information about the COVID protocols, learn more about support for students. This is a chance to come and ask questions. Please take a look at that link and sign up for the your tour. And it's important to do that. Just we want to make sure that that we are keeping track of all students and families, and we're also going to require that everybody, we do the attestation at that time. So we have your information as well.
Athletics. So Mr. Oliver lost his audio, so I'm going to go ahead and take this part.
I think I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Oh, good.
I'm back.
See, just in time.
Okay, so I know there's a lot of questions about athletics and how that would work with our new schedule. One thing that was already mentioned is potentially, depending on the sport, practices could happen before school.
We just
Could,
lost.
depending on the sport, be moved to later start times. And student athletes, as always, will be excused if they have to leave school early. So that's not anything you should worry about, other than you will have to make up or catch up whatever work you missed. Spring sports, so those are primarily indoor sports, start, actually that should say winter sports like basketball and wrestling start May 10th. Spring sports have already started. And when we do the changeover on April 19th, practice times will be adjusted to match the school day.
All right, so Q&A. So I'm going to stop screen sharing there and pull up some of the, oh, Dr. Ivanko, you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I got here just a few minutes later, but I'm here.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
All right, so questions that were asked regarding running start students or students that need to be on campus for one class. So the way that that will work is, and that is something that we accommodate, obviously. Students would report if they're not coming to school first period with everyone else and just reporting to their first period class, they would check in at the administration office, complete their attestation, and then head to their class. Parking. Mr. Oliver, do you want to talk about the parking situation and how that looks? I don't think he heard me. So parking passes this year, we're not charging for those. We are just asking that families or that students give us that information and register in the ASB office with that information, so we know whose car is whose, in case something happens to come up during the day. But we're not going to charge because it's 8 weeks and it's been a really interesting year. Team, did I miss anything on parking and or checking in for singleton classes?
No, you're good.
Okay. We had questions around expectations and safety. So as Mr. Oliver had shared in the presentation, There's specific expectations of students, and there's an agreement form that we will send home that needs to be signed. And essentially that means masks will be on throughout the day, and that students are following and complying with social distancing guidelines, as well as making sure that they are doing all of the things that keep them safe and others around them. So setting that as the stage, we want everybody to kind of know what the rules of the road are. Beyond that, the daily health attestations will help inform us with that. And Nurse Rittenhouse, since you're here, would you mind taking us through what happens if we do happen to have a kiddo that gets sick on campus?
Sure. If we have a student who's sick on campus, we need to send them home right away. So typically what would happen is that the illness would be discovered in class. Either the student reports that they're not feeling well, or the teacher thinks that that student is not looking well. They call the health room. The student comes to the health room, where we have a very comfortable isolation room where they can sit away from other students. It has a comfy recliner and a little tropical background. It's pretty nice in there. And that's where the student will wait while they're waiting to be picked up. If a student drives themselves, then they are welcome to immediately drive themselves home. If we need to wait for parents, we're going to do our best to get a hold of you. So it really is a good idea. If you need to update your contact information with the school, please do that before you return your students to school, so we know how to contact you if somebody is sick. Once we get the student safely home, we will call you either that day or the following day to ask a little more detail about the illness and what's going on, and to talk about what the next steps are. We may need you to get a COVID test. We may need to talk about how long the student needs to be out of school, but we'll be in lots of communication with you so that when your student is ready to return to school, they can do so safely without risk of any kind of infection to others.
Thank you very much. All right. Again, discussing another question that came through on the preview dealt with students with IEPs and instructional minutes and supports. Without getting into individual cases, what I can share with you is that the special education team will be calling concerns meetings for those students that are planning on being in person or hybrid rather on campus, to make sure that we're getting the support in place that they need. So if that applies to your student, please look for those meetings to happen prior to the start of return to campus on the 19th. All right. Mr. Nutting, would you like to, I'm going to put you on the spot for a minute. Can you speak for us, the 3 foot, 6 foot distance? I know we kind of touched on that as in terms of Department of Health, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page and understanding why.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, Dr. Wadawa, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. So the school district follows the Washington State Department of Health guidance for all of our reopening planning or our in-person planning. And that's been in place for us since September. We've had about 450 students attending from October up until February. And then, as many of you know, we've been adding elementary school grades over February and March. So through all of that process, we comply with all of the Department of Health guidance and requirements, including the 6 foot requirement, which is currently in place with the Department of Health. The CDC, as many of you know, changed their guidance from 6 feet to 3 feet of physical distancing. But in Washington State, the Department of Health has not made a change at this point in time. I will say that we are anticipating hearing something about the physical distancing requirement from the governor tomorrow, but I don't know what he will say or how that will impact us. So as has happened many times over the year, there could be changes that we hear about that we need to consider, and that's really nothing new for us. This has been a year of change for everybody. So Dr. Watto, hopefully that helped address your question.
It did. Thank you. And along those same lines too, with health and safety and social distancing, we are planning on classes like PE and music to be able to perform. They too have certain guidelines that they need to meet and distancing, and those instructors will orient students to that if they choose to return in an in-person format. As far as other safety concerns and questions that have come up around ventilation and making sure that kids are safe, we had mentioned that obviously windows will be open, but there's also been upgrades and additions where necessary in HEPA filters and MERV13 filters. And again, Mr. Nutting and Dr. Ivanko can speak more succinctly to that than I, but making sure that everyone has appropriate air handling and improvements so that students are safe.
Yeah, happy to speak to that. So again, the DOH guidance asks schools to have filtration on their HVAC systems at a level called MERV 13 or higher where possible. And for us in the Mount Vernon School District, we're able to meet that requirement in almost all of our buildings and locations. On the high school campus, the one place that does not meet that requirement is the old ag building, which has a very different system. Probably part of the reason why in a little while it will be demolished and replaced with new classroom space. In the meantime, in that building and in other places around the district where we are not able to have the filter system on our HVAC system up to the DOH standards, we have HEPA air purifiers that we place into classrooms, and we have plenty of those on hand and have some headed to the old ag building probably later this week. We've also placed a few at Mount Baker this week. So where we're not able to meet that filtration requirement, we have other options available to us. So I'll stop there, and if there are other questions related to that, I'm happy to chime back in.
Thank you, Mr. Nutting. One of the other recurring questions that has come up is, are teachers going to be back teaching in person? Is everyone going to be back teaching in person full-time on campus? And Dr. Ivanko, if you want to chime in on this one with me too. Some of our teachers will remain teaching remote and others will be returning in person. While they are vaccinated, there are some additional requirements that the governor has laid out in terms of high-risk categories. Dr. Ivanko, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, exactly what you said. I know that, again, as you all know, that the vaccination has really just basically added that additional layer of that Swiss cheese, right? Nurse Chris Rittenhouse, Swiss cheese. So that's one of the factors. But I know in the agreements and understanding with our labor groups, we want to make sure that, you know, there are protocols in place that they need to follow, and to make sure that if they do fall under certain health conditions, that there are different options for them. So with that, I know, Bill, you've been deeply involved. I'm not sure if there's anything you would like to add.
Yeah, sure. Just very briefly, in an earlier proclamation from the governor, he directed employers to make accommodations for staff that fall into certain at-risk categories. And that proclamation is currently still on the books. So we've complied with that since it went into effect, and will continue to do so unless it's changed or rescinded.
What I can share with you as the building principal is that our teachers are eager to have normalcy back. They want to be with their students. They want to maintain their class rosters. They don't want to change the learning environment. And so whether they are remoting in to the classroom, if they are in a remote situation and instructing their students that way, or they are in person with some students that are exercising their own option and others are in person, they are working on ensuring that those experiences are not less than what we have had thus far, and that kids are continuing to learn. The other piece that I wanted to share with you related to the remote option, we recognize that 6.5 hours on Zoom for anyone is excessive. So within the class period, teachers will be structuring their lessons to provide opportunity for both instruction and also guided practice. So that won't require that students have to spend the entire time on Zoom. And again, I want to reiterate that if students have situations where they may have signed up for something like driver's ed lessons, if you will, based on the time frame that you had before, all you need to do is talk with the teachers and they will make accommodations for that, knowing that these things weren't anticipated when you signed up way back when. We are committed to making this work and doing the best that we can by the students and by families, knowing that this is a unique year and a unique set of circumstances. All right. Let's see. Team, on the Q&A, are there any that you would like to So one of the question that is coming up on our current Q&A that I'm seeing, if you've decided that you want to go remote and originally you said hybrid, please shoot me an email. And we can make those adjustments as well. All right.
I've also gotten a lot of questions that I've tried to answer about schedules. And I noted, and I tried to answer as many as possible in the Q&A, but for all the families listening, we are updating Skyward on locations. So your student, when they, before they return to campus on Skyward, the correct classes will be indicated. And we will also have signage around campus. And so students will have updated classes with their correct class number on Skyward before they return to campus. And so students are not just going to be wandering aimlessly. They will know where to go, and that information is being worked on already.
Yeah. Okay. So some of the questions in the chat relate to athletics and parents being able to attend the winter and spring sports. Mr. Oliver, do you want to talk about capacity there?
I think, is my sound working now? Yes, so for right now, the guidance is 400. So outside for the stadium, I can have 400 spectators. The difference with inside is I can have 400 bodies in the gym. So that includes players, officials, workers, and spectators. So yes, we have the opportunity to have lots of spectators. We still have to space out. So that 400 number may be a little bit less. I have to go and put new X's on the bleachers, if anybody knows what the X's are. A lot of you do.
Thank you. As far as teachers, which teachers are remaining remote and helping to utilize that to inform your decision, teachers are still reporting back to the district as well as to the site as to what their plans are. So to help you make that decision, I would encourage you and your student to reach out directly to the teachers and find out what their plans are. As far as what happens when they are, if a teacher is remote and a student is in person, again, there will be areas for those students to go on campus to interact via Zoom with and on their Chromebook with that instructor. And then they would proceed to their next class after that class period is done. So it's a little different, but it will allow students to remain with their teachers and continue to work on the assignments just as they would have if we had remained in a remote model. For teachers that are in person and students are Zooming, there will be cameras that enable students to see what the lesson and the presentation is during that online time when they're remote with their teachers. So they're maintaining the instruction, the location. If they're fully remote, they will continue to Zoom all 4 days. If they are hybrid, they will have 2 days in person and the other 2 days will be remote. All right. Okay. Dr. Ivanko, is there anything else that you would like to share before we close out for the evening?
Sure. Yeah, a couple things. One is, first of all, it's just hard to put to imagine the countless hours that staff have put into this. It's a super complicated system. When you know, in the past we've heard that, gosh, you know, other schools have been in hybrid since the beginning of the year, but it's easy to do that with 200 students versus 7,000. You know, all along we've been taking measured steps, proceeding cautiously, following DOH guidance. And again, it's always just a reminder that we're still in a pandemic, you know, and that's why, again, I always really appreciate everybody's grace and flexibility. I've shared this in the past. I love the quote, blessed are the flexible, for they cannot be bent out of shape. And I think as a community, we need to just remember that, you know, we're doing the best that we can under the conditions that we're presented with. So, and this is still not over. You know, we're going to continue to do this and do the best we can as we finish the school year, and hopefully it looks a lot different this fall. So again, more to come. And like Mr. Nutting shared, you know, every week it seems like something, we get another curveball or another change in what we're able to provide. So as we continue to move forward, again, we're going to continue to do the best we can. The last thing we want to do is to move backwards, and that's why we've always proceeded cautiously. So I'll leave it at that. And again, just appreciate everybody's flexibility, grace, support, and understanding as we continue to move through this together as a community. So thank you, Dr. Wadawa and team, for all you've done.
Thank you, Dr. Ivanko. All right, Christy.
I just wanted to answer one quick question that's in the Q&A. Someone asked if students age 16 and older will be able to get vaccinated now. They just made an announcement today that as of May 1st, all adults 16 and older will be eligible to receive vaccine.
Thank you for that. Also, I wanted to share there was a question I meant to answer earlier and forgot. We are shooting for, the question had come up about how many kids are in a classroom when they are in person. And the number we are shooting for is 15 in a classroom. We're maximally distancing 6 feet apart, head to head in the class. And that is the number that is the most responsible with those parameters. So that's what we're looking at doing. We will take the additional Q&A questions that you've provided to us and answer those. I will have those posted and answered for you on the website by tomorrow. And again, I want to thank all of you for being here tonight and supporting your child's education and participating in the many surveys that have come your way. And again, Mount Vernon is a wonderful community. I'm so blessed to be a part of it. And I really want to thank all of you for your time and your support of our school and our students. Y'all have a good evening.